Good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday, April 19th. We are going to be talking about a bunch of stuff. We're going to be starting off with the women's golf regional for the NCAA. It was canceled. We're going to talk about why it was canceled. We're going to discuss the NBA Hall of Fame 2020 and 2021. The inductions for 2020 were most recently with Kobe Bryant being the headliner. Surprise, surprise. We got to talk about the Nets. We got NBA playoffs and more. And we had our first GOAT alert. So we'll be talking about that. The Wire starts now. Stay tuned.
All right. Welcome to The Wire. Beautifully said, Richie. I am so happy to see you fellas again. We got a lot to talk about, but real quick, how's everybody doing?
Good, man.
Doing great,
good.
man.
Good. Ready to go.
Ready to go.
Right.
Let's get it.
Let's get it started. We are going to start with golf. I thought this was pretty interesting. So the NCAA canceled the Women's Golf Regional Championship this past weekend after the Baton Rouge course did receive 7 inches of rain over several days. Now, many coaches have expressed serious frustration to analysts this week. Coaches and players were told the day before the tourney that measures were being taken to prepare the course for play. But many coaches and players decided to take a look for themselves, only to find that there was no maintenance crew out working on the course. There were no pumps running, no measures being taken at all. So the coaches and players were then informed on game day that the course would be playable, but not championship playable, and the event was canceled. So first things first, what do you fellas make of this? Should the girls been able to play? We'll start with Marvin.
No, they shouldn't have been able to play. The conditions were just too harsh. Under, those kind of conditions, being that wet outside. I felt like the right decision was made, even if they have to move it to another date. But, if you are heavily invested in a tournament, and having these teams really travel to this, destined location to contend for a championship, you want the conditions to be a level playing field. So it wasn't that day. So I felt like I made the right decision.
So, hey, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I think what Marvin said is exactly right. Like, it sounds like the field we're going to be like non-playable anyway. So I don't understand the big gripe. No, it feels like no matter what you do, you know what I'm saying? You get all that rain, it's going to be unplayable anyway. So just don't waste the time getting a grounds crew to try to make sure it's good for play. You know what I'm saying? It's too much rain. Nothing you can do.
I mean, and I will say they did have, Richie, they had a couple of days of decent weather and no efforts were made, it seemed like at all to get the course ready to play. But they did say it was playable, just not championship playable.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of the thing. So here, there's two sides of the coin. For the girls, think of it this way, guys. All year they've been waiting to do this. I'm not going to go with the anecdote. Oh, they waited their whole life. Not going there. The point is that the top 6 seeded teams out of 18 and the top 3 individuals that weren't in those schools advanced to nationals, and everyone else doesn't get to play. So obviously, if you're, one of those athletes, you're pissed regardless. But for the integrity of the sport, I'm actually with the other guys. I worked on a golf course since I was 12 years old. Now, yes, you can work maintenance and you can try to pump the water, but the bottom line is standing water in a bunker. I don't care if you had 30 people trying to do that, you're not going to clear the whole course. So What you really have to think about at this point is do you postpone and not cancel, right? Do you take it to another area of course? Now, clearly this has been a tradition for the 20 years, and that's why I didn't want to do that. But I'm more surprised that there wasn't there wasn't a postponement, quite frankly. But I don't know the timelines in terms of like the nationals, so that could be why. So I know this isn't the result the athletes wanted, but again, as somebody who worked on a golf course, you don't 7 inches of rain and things like that. That's not something you can really fix. And you don't just try to shoehorn and shove people within an 8-hour window. 18 teams in an 8-hour window, they're not going to play. That's not going to, you might get half the teams and then you're still in the same thing. Who gets to go? Who doesn't get to go? Who got to play? Who didn't get to play? So I don't feel like there's a great answer. I think the problem was there's a lack of communication by the committee, which is why you're having these people so distraught. So at the end of the day, this is a loss for everybody. I don't think anybody won out of this. And it's unfortunate, but I mean, I still stand with the idea that the course was not going to be quality golf. Like everybody would have played poorly because you can't play in sloppy grass like that. You won't succeed. And then you don't know it's kind of like playing, basketball with one arm. Yeah, sure, you can field the team and you guys can play each other, but you don't know who really would have won. And I think that's why the committee was like, we're not doing this.
Something to consider too, and I don't want to linger here too long, but I'll let you rebuttal if you like. Just to your point, that it was just flat out canceled. We saw that with the football games too, and we've been seeing it in baseball. I mean, NCAA is just pretty much canceling when they need to, whether it be COVID, whether it be weather, and not rescheduling. Do you think that's going to continue to trend?
I mean, the way it's going, sure. I mean, again, if I'm a student athlete, I'd probably be upset. But at the end of the day, this is a little different than the COVID stuff. But, it is what it is. What can you do? That's how golf works. Golf is an outdoor sport. This is part of it. I understand for them, they feel they got robbed, but this is what is golf, right? If the course is unplayable, it's unplayable. And, to them, the committee, they felt it was unplayable. And again, like we're talking about, this is kind of like that, like a football player who is injured and they want to play in the Super Bowl. And they're going to be like, no, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Yeah, you can do it, but you ain't going to play the way you would normally play. And that's the committee trying to make this more respectable, right? And you're going to add 8 to 10, points on a scorecard if the weather's that bad, or if the grass is that wet at the end of the day. If it's that wet, that's going to happen. So I think they just wanted to not make it, we wanted to see good golf. Not that these women aren't good, but nobody's good in that kind of course. So I get it. It's
yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's move on to something I'm pretty excited to talk about. I'm excited for a lot of our topics today, especially to address the GOAT alert that we had. But the LA Lakers, we'll start here. They waited to raise the 2020 National Championship banner until this past week because they wanted to do it with fans in the building. It was a beautiful moment. LeBron spoke to the fans in attendance prior to raising the banner, and he capped his speech with, and I wanted to bring this up specifically, the road to back-to-back begins in a week. So let's take a look at the Lakers. As it stands right now, the Lakers, Richie's worst nightmare, will face the Warriors in the first round of the play-in tournament in a series, right? So the loser of that series will then have to play the winner of the Grizzlies and Spurs to determine the final team to get into the playoffs. So first things first, before we go any further, I want to know, who do you think is going to have to play that losers bracket against the winner of the Grizzlies and Spurs? And we're back at Richie to go back the other way. Yep.
all right. We're going to race order. Simple as this. It's going to be the Warriors playing the loser. Like, they're not going to win. Like, the Lakers are going to win for sure. And I stand by that. Steph Curry had a phenomenal last game, I think 42 or 45 points. But here's what, spoiler alert, in the last 8 years, Steph Curry's played against the Lakers. He's averaged 20.2 points per game. It is what it is. That's not an anomaly. That's just a statistic. Do I still think like he's balling better than he's ever played in his entire life? Absolutely. I'm not going to say he's going to drop a goose egg 20. He'll probably score 32 plus points, but he's not going to be able to single-handedly win them the game. Right now, the way Steph Curry's playing, it reminds me of James Harden last year with the Rockets and the year before. He just has a bunch of scrubs around him. It is what it is. Now, Wiggins is solid, 18 and a half points, but for, a $28 million contract, not worth it. Lakers are going to win. I also think I'm more excited about I think the Grizzlies are going to be kind of the more fun team to watch. So I'm looking forward to it, but I don't see the Warriors beating the Lakers in the one game play-in.
All right, Sahi, you're up, man. What do you think? Who's going to the losers bracket?
Who's going to the losers bracket? Ooh, I see a plan like this. The Warriors win. And then I don't know. Who cares who wins the others? Who wins the other game? You know what I'm saying? Who's playing the Spurs and the Grizzlies?
The Grizzlies, yeah.
Great job for making it, guys. Yeah, great job for making it. But this is the end of the regular season, basically, for y'all. You got one of you teams just happened to get an extra 2 games. So whatever. Those teams are not going to do anything. But I think it's the Lakers are going to get the 8th seed and the Warriors are going to get the 7. That's how I think it's going to play out.
What about you, Marvin? Who do you think is going to, between the Lakers and the Warriors, who do you think is going to have to play the losers bracket for that 8th seed?
Our Warriors will have to play the losers for that 8th bracket. I mean, I'll tell you why. I mean, they're not my worst nightmare. I mean, because Steph Curry, I agree with you, he's playing, lights out basketball, probably the best basketball of his entire career, and is deserving of the MVP. But when you look at how they played, how the Lakers have played the Warriors this season, they have actually, like Richie said, have statistically have kept him at a low point. He hasn't gone off against the Lakers. And that's simply because, once you shut down Steph outside of that, what are the other guys going to give you? I mean, Draymond's first team all defense, but is he guarding Anthony Davis? I don't think so. Is he going to guard Andre Drummond? No. They have no James Wiseman. They have no Kelly Oubre. Are you going to depend on Andrew Wiggins to take you there? Nah. You're going to depend on who else? I can't even name anyone else on their roster minus Kent Bazemore, if that really says a lot. So I think that the Lakers are in a good spot, getting healthy. LeBron seems to be playing a lot better than what he did was when he first injured the ankle and he re-aggravated. He had a little tweak the other night, but Frank Vogel said he's good to go. But it's actually looking, for me, it's scary for the Warriors right now. I mean, you're riding the momentum of one guy, and you're going to have to depend on that. The Lakers are one of the top defensive teams in the league when healthy. So when you shut down Steph outside of that, I mean, I don't know what they're going to give you. They're heading to the losers bracket.
Okay. All right. So that being said, we'll combine these 2 questions because it was kind of resounding in that direction, except for Wasahi sticking out there. First off, and you can answer both of these, Marvin, we're going to go reverse order. So I'm coming right back to you. In the Warriors-Lakers matchup, which player is more dangerous per game? Is it LeBron James or Steph Curry? And which team needs the win more for momentum's sake? And I see Richie's sick and he knows he's going last. But go ahead, Marvin.
Unbiasedly, I just have to say the most dangerous player in this equation is Steph Curry because, I mean, he's the greatest shooter ever. You have to give him his props, credit where credit's due. But you still, in my opinion, going up against the greatest player in the world, which is LeBron James. So I think that in a series, LeBron has the edge over Steph Curry, because like I said, there is no Klay Thompson, there is no James Wiseman, there is no Kelly Oubre. Andre Iguodala's not walking through that door anytime soon. And Draymond is Draymond. I mean, they got to suffer the consequences of paying them that fat ass contract that I bet they're regretting since they had him sign in the off season. But I think that Steph Curry individually most dangerous compared in this equation, but I still have to give it to the best player in the world that can actually make everybody on the team excel.
Now, before you answer which team needs it the most, and we'll move it on, I do have to say we have our second GOAT alert. And it was a twofer, so I just need to see if you guys can dispute this, and if so, we'll go to next week with it. He called Steph Curry the greatest shooter of all time. That's hard to dispute. Can anybody dispute it?
I mean, we could have a discussion, but it ain't worth it.
Not worth it.
So let's pass on that one.
And LeBron James.
I mean,
GOAT of all
I already
time.
said he's a great.
You said what now?
He said LeBron James greatest basketball player of all time.
Oh no,
and
I will.
Steph Curry.
Well, I'll dispute that next week. Let's do
Okay.
that.
We'll just.
All right, we're
I
taking
won't dispute it. He is.
I'll dispute that. Let's do it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we'll do that. All right,
Richie
so,
not gonna let me get away with it.
We'll let you get away with it.
so Marvin, we'll go back into the swing of things. Your other question was, which of these teams needs the win more for momentum?
The Lakers need to win more for momentum. They're the reigning defending NBA champions. Let me break it down to y'all. If LeBron James beats Steph Curry in this play-in and goes through this Western Conference, having to beat the Suns or having to beat the Clippers, whoever else he's got to go through, because it's even tougher than it was last year, and then faces the Nets in the NBA Finals and beats the Nets, we might have to have another discussion on another episode of The Wire, debating Richie on who I think is the GOAT after if that does happen. But I think the Lakers need it more than the Warriors right now. I mean, Warriors aren't playing for nothing. They're playing for Klay Thompson's health next year. They're just playing for fun. Steph is playing for fun. He's playing mad because they've been blown out by 60 or 50 plus points more than 5 times this season. So that's got to piss a man off. I already know that. But Lakers need it more.
Sahi, it's a two-parter. Who's more dangerous per game, LeBron James or Steph Curry, and which team needs this win more for momentum?
Who's more dangerous per game? I'm gonna go with especially when you're talking about like a playoff atmosphere. I'm gonna go with LeBron James. He's been to the finals every time, other than one time in the last decade. Like, he's always in the finals, so you need a guy like that. That's, what you're going to get out of a guy like that. Steph Curry, he could be streaky. You know what I'm saying? It's either he's on or he's off. But he's on more than he's off. But a guy that's more dangerous, give me LeBron, because he could do it all, and he does it each and every night. Like, that consistency of just doing it all the time it's just dangerous. That's why he's LeBron. That's why he's considered one of the greatest players to ever play the game. Your second question, who needs it more?
For momentum.
I don't know. For momentum's sake, I don't think there's any momentum either way in these playoff games going to swing either way. I just don't see the Lakers missing the playoffs, so I don't think they see themselves missing the playoffs. So they just need to get there. I don't think that they're gonna, even if they win, it's not gonna be a momentum like builder. Like, oh, we're going into the playoffs with some momentum. They've kind of been limping in, and all the teams playing in the play-in tournament, which is, I don't know, it's kind of ridiculous, but it's kind of exciting. So it's just like this new thing. So I don't think there's going to be like a momentum like from winning these. You know what I'm saying? So I just see the Warriors and the Lakers both making the play. Is that even possible for both of them to make it?
Yeah, one can win the losers bracket for
they can both.
Okay, yeah. So that's what I see happening anyway. So I feel like both of those teams know that, because the Grizzlies and the Spurs, come on, man. Come on.
No, well, if the Warriors meet up with the Lakers, that might be a clean sweep.
You talking about for the Lakers?
If that's the playoffs, I think that could be a clean sweep.
Yeah.
Barring any injuries on any side.
Yeah, I think the Lakers can sweep damn near every team in the Western side. Because, the Jazz, they're down. The Phoenix Suns are probably the only team that can steal a game, in my opinion. The Nuggets, don't they have injury issues?
Yeah, no Jamal Murray.
Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
That's huge.
So that's huge. You know what I'm saying? And they're one of the top teams. And the Clippers, they just ain't got it. Yeah, Clay just ain't got it. This playoff is going to be pandemic P all over again.
I think another pandemic is coming.
Right.
All right, Richie's been waiting super patiently.
No vaccine for pandemic P.
We're gonna give the man the floor. Richie, who's more dangerous per game, Steph Curry, LeBron James, and which team needs this win for momentum's sake?
I mean, I'm glad Marvin said it for color, but the answer is LeBron James. Let's keep it real here. Steph Curry, here's what I'll say about him. Best shooter of all time. This is easily his best season of all time by a mile, and the man's on fire. But the bottom line is this. He averages 26.8 points per game. He has never been exceptional in the playoffs, because that's what we're talking about, guys. When I think of what this question is, this isn't who's going to score the most in a single game. No. This is playoff. Like you got to draft Steph Curry or LeBron James for one game to win a championship. Who you draft in? And I don't think many people are going to be like Steph Curry. That's just not going to happen. LeBron averages 28.9, 2.7 more, give or take. More importantly, he's scored over 50 points in a playoff game. Believe it or not, Steph Curry is not. His highest is 47. And again, the man doesn't average anywhere near 30. I will say this, like I said, greatest shooter of all time, best season he's ever played. But the bottom line is, if I'm going to take him, he's playing LeBron James. Like if Steph Curry's playing Dame Lillard, okay, I'll take Steph. I'll take Steph against anybody but like KD or LeBron. Because the reality is Steph can only do one thing, score. And this isn't just, when we talk about danger and like, it's not just scoring, it's their impact on the game. And Steph, don't get me wrong, Steph, when he has talent around him, is a magnet. People have to follow him and his teammates can get open. But Marvin already talked about it. He doesn't have any teammates. Well, that's what we're talking about right now. So it's no contest. Now, maybe like a year from now, Clay's back. We have a different conversation. Then there is that Steph could arguably be as dangerous, but he's got nobody to support him. And he's, maybe, and I still don't even think that, maybe on his best day, he'll outscore LeBron in a game, like in a one-on-one. But that's never happened so far in the playoffs. And I don't see that happening this upcoming game. So to me, absolutely LeBron James. I love LeBron James, and I'm not a Steph Curry hater, but to me, this is just not a fair thing. Unless we're going, he's going to score more points in a vacuum in one game, then sure, maybe. But even then, I'd never count out King James, man. He's had 17 seasons where he's averaged 25 points per game. Michael Jordan has 10, okay? Just to clarify. Now, he has a higher points per game than Bron by a mile, but 17 consecutive seasons, the man has averaged 25 points per game. And it's not his priority. We all can agree on that. If he wanted to score more, especially in his younger years, he could have easily done that. So what is there to say? The man's consistent. I know if it's one game, him versus the universe, he's going to score 40 points. Like that's what he's going to do. And I can't say the same for Steph. He scored over 40 points twice in his entire career in the playoffs. So.
All right. And do you want to answer the momentum, or are you ready to just keep checking on?
I mean, to me, it's kind of obsolete. The Warriors aren't playing for anything. So I'm going to say, why not? The momentum's for them, because either way. All right. We're sticking with basketball to lead in the break. I apologize for you folks that are waiting for more football talk. We'll get there, but it's playoff season for NBA. So basketball is what you're getting. We do have boxing coming up in the second half. So hang on to your shorts. With James Harden potentially returning soon, hopefully, right? For many folks' sake. Fellas, I just want to know, this is a question that's been brewing in my mind. Which piece do you feel is the most essential to the New York Nets?
Okay. Is it Kyrie Irving? Is it James Harden? Or is it Kevin Durant? And I want you to explain yourself, starting with Richie.
Ooh, this is a tough one. Damn, man. Okay, assuming they're all healthy and playing together. That's the assumption.
Which doesn't happen very often.
Which only has happened like 7 games total or 11 maybe. Here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna do a cop out, but I will have a definitive answer. Obviously, KD's your consistency. Kyrie is your closer and your most clutch guy. Like we just talked about Steph Curry. I'd rather have Kyrie in that late game moment than Curry. But to me, the answer is James Harden. And the reason why I say that is they were looking very shaky before James got there. And yes, I know all 3 haven't played together, but since James got there, they went up. They were at one point tied for first, and now they're down to second. And James is playing prolific. He's led the league in assists at 10.4 while still averaging like 26 points per game. I think we were all talking about there's not gonna be enough balls for these guys. That was one of the things we joked about. And what we've seen is James Harden take a step back and be the playmaker and not try to sit there and do what he was doing, the James Harden show. Now, Kyrie's been doing a lot, but James has really taken it upon himself to be a true point guard, even though he, moved over to shooting guard a few years ago. So to me, he's made the biggest sacrifice while still impacting the team very, very positively. Whereas KD and Kyrie are just doing the same thing they've always done. James Harden, let's not forget, guys, he's 2 years removed from averaging 36 points per game. And he dropped down 10 points so he can make sure he raises assists up and led the league, right? So to me, I think this is James Harden. He turned the ship around. They were not winning very much. They were 5th, I think, when they got him. And they moved up to, again, up to first, now to second. I just think they're more cohesive. And he also finds a way to not let Kyrie take 30 shots and gets, Kevin some more shots. So I'm going with James Harden.
All right. Sahi, the question was, who is most essential to the New York Nets? Is it Kyrie Irving, James Harden, or Kevin Durant? And explain yourself.
Well, if Kevin Durant's not there, then the Brooklyn Nets, they're a shit show. He's the glue. He's the most essential. Kyrie Irving is like half in, half out on basketball. He's like playing for the Brooklyn Nets is his part-time job. I mean, he come in and he does a great job in his role, and he's able to do the things that he's able to do, and he's able to be 1 foot out because of Kevin Durant. James Harden is able to be a great point guard and facilitate and get a lot of one-on-ones because Kevin Durant. You know what I'm saying? Granted, they all haven't played out on the field or the court at the same time or blah, blah, blah. So these guys are extremely talented on their own. But for them to reach the pinnacle of where they want to go, the reason why they brought this team together in the first place, they need that man, Kevin Durant. He's the most essential. Because without him, they don't have championship aspirations. And they're just another team trying to knock off LeBron, which they are just another team, even with Kevin Durant. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But he's the most essential for sure.
Okay. All right. So we're moving on to Marvin. I thought Richie was steaming there for a second, but we'll move on.
Oh, no. It's just my shaved face makes me look angry, apparently. No steaming.
All right, Marvin. In case you forgot, the question was, who is most essential to the Nets? Is it Irving, Harden, or Durant? And explain yourself, please.
I'm going to say Kyrie Irving. Kyrie, because Kyrie recently just joined the 40, 50, 90 club. And that alone in itself just shows you why he's one of the top point guards in the game. Well, 2 guards in the game, because he's playing the 2 spot on the team. And you got James Harden playing the 1, averaging over 8 assists a game when he's been playing. But I think that without Kyrie Irving, James Harden and Kevin Durant complement each other well. We've seen this in Oklahoma City, but outside of that, you just have two scorers. You'd have to have James Harden distribute the ball to, you need a third perennial scorer. Like you have KD, you got James Harden, you got two of the most explosive offensive threats in the game. But I think Kyrie really holds it together because KD and James Harden, they've gone stretches where they can't make shots. You have to have, Kyrie Irving, on this team, because I feel like when he is playing, when he is focused on basketball, he's giving you everything down the stretch that you need in clutch moments in the fourth quarter. I mean, minus the few games they've had recently where they've struggled with some turnovers. But if you just take him out of the equation, James Harden and Kevin Durant, they don't go far in the postseason. I mean, I know I just mentioned Oklahoma City, but this is not Oklahoma City times. This is still the East. This has got more competitive. You've got the Heat, you've got the Bucks. You've got a lot of teams that could make a run at them if they didn't have Kyrie. So I feel like Kyrie holds everything together alongside. KD's the leader, but you have to have you have to have Kyrie Irving.
Fair.
Imagine if he actually cared about basketball, Marv, his entire career. To Sahi's point.
Well, this is the NBA. This is not CNN. They interviewed him the other day talking about what he doesn't want to talk about. I'm like, all right, man. On 2K, I don't know if y'all play 2K, but it should say on his player's badge, player can have erratic behavior. Yeah. I was looking for that the other day, Sahi. I couldn't find it. I was like, man, it says that next to KD's name.
For real.
Yeah. I was like, way. That's why they like each other. That's why they all play each other. That's how they're all playing on the same team. It's a bunch of misfits. It's three misfits, but they are misfitting it, making it work. I mean, very obscure big three.
He has been a little distracted. All right. So we're going to move into our quick take segment. We'll do a quick take. This is where you guys have 60 seconds to respond. Then we're going to go to the break, and when we come back, we're going to talk GOAT, boxer of all time, because that got called out on last week's GOAT alert. And then we've got some more NBA. But before we go, I want to bring up once again another team in New York. Since we're talking about New York, we can't not talk about the New York Knicks, who, in my opinion, have kind of been the Balboa story of the 2021 season, right? They will be playing the Atlanta Hawks in the first round of the playoffs. And it looks like they're going to finish the regular season at the number 4 seed in the East. Now, much love to New York, Marvin aside. Let's be real here. Do we think the Knicks can win this series? And if they do, how far can they go?
I definitely think they can win this series. I think they match up well against the Hawks. I mean, you look at the Hawks, and they got Trae Young, they got a nice young, core. But I think what Atlanta's missing is what they gave up. They gave up Rajon Rondo, which would have been huge in their first round, postseason appearance in a while. But I think that them going up against this New York Knicks team is reminiscent of that 90s toughness, grit and grind New York basketball that people miss seeing. This team represents that. So I think that when them going into this matchup, Julius Randle is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, the dude averaged a triple-double the other day, and he's been playing like a superstar all season. I think that going into next year, we can finally say that Julius Randle is crossed over into that superstar conversation. And I feel like this is the moment where he can really earn his stripes. It's the postseason. It's the first round. This is New York. I mean, I think that first game, is it the first 2 games going to be played in New York?
I believe so. Yep.
Oh, they're going to blow the roof off. They're going to blow the roof off the place. So Atlanta's not ready. So I think that the New York Knicks, they got one of the best coaches in the game, and I think that as good as they've been all season, it's probably going to end in the second round. You know, they don't have enough. They don't have that guy yet. Julius Randle was great, but they don't have though that one guy, or they need two more guys, and they are championship contenders. If they can pry, I know I'm going sideways, if they can pry Damian Lillard from Portland in the offseason or add somebody, they are right where they're right there. They're right where they need to be.
It's hard to stop him when he's so good. But Marvin went a little bit over. We're on the 60-second take. Sahi, first of all, do you think that the Knicks can take on the Hawks? Do you think they can win this series? And if so, how far can they go in this playoffs?
They could definitely beat the Hawks for sure. It just depends on if they can slow down, what's his name, Trae Young, the shooter dude that could put up as many points as possible. He's a little young Steph Curry.
Baby Steph.
Yeah, for sure. But after that, as long as they don't play the Bucks, the Heat, or the Sixers, or the Nets, which they can't avoid, they're ending in the second round.
All right. Richie, same question. Do you think they can beat the Hawks and win that series? And do you think they'll go any further?
I think they will beat the Hawks. The Hawks are, they have Bogdanovich, and they're like the Nets. I'm going to call them the Nets light, in that they score a lot of points, but they give up even more. So I just think Randall's playing at another level, and I think he's going to dominate, and I think that's going to be the difference. Can they go past that? No, it ends. It's a one and done. The Cinderella story is Hawks, and then like Sahi's point, it doesn't matter who they play, they can't beat anybody else.
Cinderella's going on a quick date. That's
right.
You're getting a little taste in New York. Well, it's exciting.
Thank you, man.
Right. It's a quickie.
Certainly some excitement in your city, Marvin, between the two.
Oh, yeah.
So looking forward to it. All right, guys, don't go anywhere. We got more Wire coming right at you after this. Marvin, which game are you going to try to get to? Like a Nets game or a Knicks game, or neither?
Man, I'm going to go to Madison Square Garden, man. It's right down the street. So listen, man, I've been living in Manhattan for a little while now. I did live in Brooklyn for a year, so I still got love for my Brooklyn folks out there, but I'm torn, man. I'm torn.
All right. So this is Gary 43. He says, I feel like Justin is the reason this country has to put directions on shampoo. Do you even know what you're talking about, bro? No, I don't, Gary fucking 43. I have no idea. I don't even use shampoo. I just use 1 3-in-1 body wash, you bastard.
All right, this is from Karen 45. How do you feel about being ranked sexiest man on your podcast when Tony looks like a barbecued Kermit the Frog?
Jesus Christ.
Wait a second.
My.
Why? That sounds like a Tony rip. Why is Marvin?
That's a Tony rip. That's towards me?
Wow.
Does Christy think having a child on her lap makes her seem more likable? Also, get some sleep. You look tired. Thanks, Breezy. I'm trying.
Adam says, I see ratings must have been down. They recruited someone interesting.
Wow.
All right.
Some burn on the rest of us.
Oh, I mean, thank you, Adam.
Ashley says, I watch the show a lot and I was wondering, are you all changing the name to RT2M? Richie talks too much. I don't know what to say, Ashley, other than I feel like I talk exactly as much as I should. So fuck you.
Yes. Oh boy. Margaret says, is it me or when Tony talks, do you get the feeling he's constipated?
Yeah. Well, that face right there doesn't really help you.
Welcome back to The Wire. It is time folks to go over our first GOAT alert. And I had this really cool animation. I have to say this as a producer. I had this really cool animation planned for last week and it didn't even happen. So it's going to go on when Marvin had his GOAT alert earlier. And you'll remember that from the first half. Anyway, we're going to talk about the best boxer of all time. Now, I'm staying out of it because I'm the moderator. Richie, this is how we're going to do it. You last week set off the GOAT alert by saying Floyd Money Mayweather is the greatest boxer of all time. I want you to briefly, sir, please state your case, and then these two gentlemen are ready to rebut.
Floyd, okay, so to clarify, one thing I said on The Wire in season 1 was that Muhammad Ali is the GOAT and the greatest of all time. And Muhammad Ali is the only man that has graced my apartment. I bought a $500 beautiful portrait of him. Having said that, Floyd Mayweather Jr. is the GOAT of boxing. We're not talking about favorites. We're talking about who is the best. And I'm just going to go with the Michael Jordan quote, man, right? He say he's 6-0, right? That's what all he ever says. 6-0, 6 rings. Well, all I got to say is undefeated, my friends. Undefeated. It's not about, because it's the same thing with the Steph Curry thing. And I'm going to just say this real quickly. People hate James Harden. Even though they score similarly, they hate him. And it's because he just drives to the line, makes it, the ref calls a foul that didn't happen and he gets free throws. And he ends up scoring as much as Steph Curry. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you knock somebody out or if you never got hit. If your hand gets raised, you won the fight. And the bottom line is he's the greatest, bar none, defensive boxer of all time. And that should not be held against him because his style is boring, all right? He's never lost a fight. People try to talk about ducking. And so I'm going to say this. Every boxer you've ever loved basically ducks somebody. For instance, Sugar Ray Leonard, easily a GOAT. I wouldn't say he's top 5, but probably top 10. Only lost to Roberto Handstone Duran, another guy you could say is GOAT. Now, Sugar Ray actually avoided a guy named Aaron Pryor from Cincinnati, who would have been the GOAT if he didn't get on drugs. He avoided him twice. Aaron Pryor lost one fight, but he was on drugs, and it was when he was 38 years old. So in his prime, never lost a fight, went 39-0 with 36 KOs. Sugar Ray Leonard ducked him, okay? Because the argument is always Floyd Mayweather ducked Manny Pacquiao, and that's not true, all right? And it's the same thing that's going on right now if you watch boxing right now. We got a situation, and the gentleman's name is Bob Arum. He's a boxing promoter. And what was happening is Bob Arum was trying to get a 50-50 split of money for Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. And Floyd Mayweather said, wait a second, I'm my own promoter. People pay to see me. Like, people like Pacquiao, but it's 60-40. I am the headline, not Pacquiao. And because Arum wouldn't go 60-40 and he wanted 50-50, Floyd said, pardon my language, fuck it. And he said, I'm not doing that. I would rather make, $30 million more fighting anybody else than have this legacy fight. And I don't blame him for it. The dude cares about money, and there's nothing wrong with that. And he's undefeated for a reason, and it's because nobody could touch the man. He's won in 5 divisions, all right? He's not just a one-weight guy. And the only other guy we can talk about is the Hawk, like I was talking about, and Roberto Duran. To me, what signifies a truly great technical fighter, MMA, boxing, whatever, is the ability to move up in weight and not just stay in one spot. Because when you're the predator and you just apex predator and you plow through a division and there's nothing left, should you not try to take on a new challenge? And that's exactly what Floyd Mayweather did. And that's now, don't get me wrong, for a heavyweight, you only got one spot. You can't really go down. You're not going to go down. You're not going to lose like 40 pounds. But for the most part, you generally go upward. And that's kind of the idea. So Floyd Mayweather increased the difficulty in his fights over his career, defeated many, many amazing fighters, and made it look easy. And that's not his fault. Zab Judah is the only guy who even hit him. The only guy who even hit him. And everyone is all mad about Oscar De La Hoya and Hatton and Marquez and Sugar Shane. Manny Pacquiao. I can go down the list. This man has fought everybody who was ever in front of him and was ever considered good at his time. Now, Manny, we can argue, was a little past his prime, but outside of that fight, he's fought everyone in their prime and he's dominated. He has never had a split decision win. Okay. He's won convincingly. This dude, just because he's not knocking people out, does not mean he wasn't dominant. And again, I'm just going to say this one last time. Undefeated, man. 50-0. 50-0. Money Mayweather. Worth $750 million. I love when a man says, I don't need a promoter. I'm going to show you why I'm the best and I'll deal with it. And that's exactly why this man is the GOAT. Not because he's a promoter, but because he knows I control my destiny and I will fight who and when I want to fight. Floyd, for sure, best technical boxer of all time, undefeated. It's hard to go against undefeated.
And he said he's going to kill the Paul brothers. Okay, who wants to rebut this first? And you got to give me a new fighter for greatest of all the time. That's the rebut here. Who wants to go first?
Want it?
Go ahead, Sahih.
Yeah. Floyd. 50-0. I pick my own fights. I get all the money, so I can say I'm 50-0 and I'm the best ever. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool and all. But when you think of fighting and who's the greatest of all time, you want to think of somebody that gets in that ring, looks another man dead in the eye, cocks back and just knocks the piss right out of him, and that guy goes to sleep. That's what you want to see when you think of boxing. Now, who do you think about when you think of that? Iron Mike Tyson, the greatest of all time. He was knocking people out left and right. And he would have got Roy Jones too, but Roy Jones was running. He knew, like, I can't stand. Who wants to fight Mike Tyson? You want to fight Mike Tyson? Nope. Because you might die. And nobody wants that. You know what I'm saying? I'd fight Floyd Mayweather for a check. You fight him too. Anybody will fight Floyd? Nah, not Mike Tyson. Even till, especially Mike Tyson in his prime, he probably would have knocked them all out. Nobody's standing a chance against Mike in his prime. The only reason why he lost to Buster Douglas is because he was partying too much of the booger candy. You know what I'm saying? Too much drinking, too much of the women. He was full of himself. He was the greatest of all time. Mike Tyson, man.
Boy, Sahih, what'd you say? Something about he lost to Buster Douglas? No.
Come on,
he lost to Buster Douglas. Buster Douglas.
Nobody thought he was gonna lose to Buster Douglas. He barely trained.
That's exactly my point, Sahih.
He got lucky.
The greatest of all time takes their craft seriously at all time. Mike Tyson didn't. I agree with you. If he would have took his career more seriously, he would have been the GOAT. He would have been. I think he would have been, but he didn't take it serious. It's that simple. That's why he lost 5 times. He should have lost 0 times. There's nobody that could have fought with him if he actually thought about it, but he wasn't in it.
Marvin, can you contest Floyd is the greatest of all time when it comes to boxing? Still, after hearing his point?
Yeah, man. I mean, I gotta pay my respects and pay my homage to who I think is the greatest boxer of all time. Now, nothing against Floyd. I know he's got the record. It's pretty hard to argue with 50-0. It is. It's really hard to argue with that. It's hard to argue with Iron Mike. Like I said, nobody ever, I felt like, dominated boxing the way that he did. But when you talk about those two boxers fall underneath the umbrella, and at the top of that umbrella is Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, to me, is the greatest boxer of all time, most inspiring boxer of all time. Like Sahih said, you want a boxer that gets in there and that's going to fight? Well, Muhammad Ali got in there, talked smack before he did it, and backed it up. And that's where I think you got, we see Floyd Mayweather, his flamboyant personality. Not saying that, he got that from Muhammad Ali, but I think that stems from Muhammad Ali. I don't think any great boxer that even studied Muhammad Ali didn't take something from him, or like something from how he behaved, before fights, or like his interviews, or just how his cockiness, his swagger, like just how he carried himself. I think that like that birthed like this era of like overconfident boxers. Like you got Deontay Wilder, now Deontay Wilder got knocked out by what was his name? Tyson Fury. but you look at their style. You look at their style. You look at their style and you look at these boxers' attitudes, like Floyd Mayweather, the way they carry themselves. I think that all stems from Muhammad Ali. So it's like Michael Jordan. Kobe Bryant wouldn't have been as great, or wouldn't have chased his greatness, like he said himself, if there had not been a Michael Jordan. Like Mike, he said in The Last Dance. This is similar. He said there would be no me if there was no Mike. So I think there wouldn't be a Floyd or a Mike Tyson if it wasn't for Muhammad Ali paving the way.
We're gonna do this because I would love to let you guys go at this forever. I love hearing you guys talk boxing and martial arts. We've done that before. Tony Ray, we're calling you out from the wire. We tagged you in this episode. Glad you're checking us out. We miss you here on the show, but we need you to come back to the show, or at least on the H2G podcast or something. Tell us who convinced you, who's the GOAT boxer, because you did that for us before with the UFC, and I think you did a great job. So you got to tell us out of those three. Go ahead, Richie.
I want a 10-second rebuttal because obviously Muhammad Ali is hard to argue against. Give me 10 seconds, just 10 seconds. Like Sahi said with Mike Tyson, and like Marv was saying with Muhammad Ali, they fought a long time. They beat a lot of people, but there's one thing that's consistent with them. At the end of their careers, they lost. Just saying.
In their prime, Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson's knocking Muhammad Ali clean.
Oh, he crazy. He crazy. All right. Subject, Justin. Mute him.
That's going tired.
Blasphemy.
Marvin, I'm glad you brought up Kobe Bryant because the man was inducted into the NBA Hall of Fame, with the class of 2020 and 2021 being inducted together. The award accepted by his wife, Vanessa Bryant. She gave a truly beautiful and motivating speech. I do have some questions for you guys about the Hall of Fame, but first, does anybody have anything they'd like to say about Vanessa Bryant's speech or Kobe's induction?
Well, I'm not going to say anything in particular other than it was beautiful, like what Sahi just said. It's you could tell Vanessa really didn't want to be there. Like it was very emotional for her. And so, kudos to her. I can't imagine, how monumentally, that's Kobe. That's what he wanted, man. He wanted to be enshrined with the greatest. And to me, I put Kobe like number 10 on my top 10 of all time. Kobe Bryant was spectacular. This Hall of Fame class is one of, if not, the best class. The weak link being Kevin Garnett is a pretty strong class, if you asking me, right? Because Tim Duncan is, I got to mention this man. Like, people forget about the big fundamental. I have him at number 6 all time. Like, a lot of people forget about how amazing Kobe and Tim were. Both of them were combined 15-time All-NBA players. I believe Kobe was 11-time first, and I think 4 second. And then Tim was 10 first, 3 second, 2 third string. And then he was 10 first time all defense, and then 5 second. The man was a 3-time MVP, 2-time MVP, 3-time finals MVP, I think. And they both won 5 championships. And Kobe Bean Bryant has 2 finals MVPs as well, and 1 MVP as well. 2-time scoring title champ. I mean, both of them are amazing dominant players. And, Marvin's mentioned about it a lot. I'm sure he'll love to talk about Kobe more than I'm going to. When I consider Kobe is like what Marvin said about like Muhammad with all generations. Like Kobe took Michael's stuff basically and still made his own game out of it, right? Like, he stole his shit, and he said it a million times, but like he made his own game and his own legacy. The thing that's most underrated is what I was going back to: 11-time first like All NBA defense, right? Now people talk about like Draymond Green and all these guys, and Draymond Green has 5 first NBA defense. Kobe Bryant has 11, right? Kobe was a fantastic defensive player, and that doesn't get talked about, right? Just like Michael Jordan was a great defensive player, Kobe Bryant was an amazing defensive player. This is probably, other than like Jordan's, because that was also an insane class. This could be the best Hall of Fame class, man. I was super excited to see these 3 being the 2020 class. Phenomenal. Loved it, man. The epitome of all of them. Kevin Garnett is a top 10 in number 9 in rebounds and number 8 in blocks all time. When he won his MVP, he led the league in points, rebounds, assists, and blocks. Like, these guys are some of the best basketball players of all time. KG's certainly not nearly on the same pantheon as the other 2, but nonetheless, it was a beautiful speech by her. I'm so glad posthumously Kobe got in and got to headline, because regardless of like where you want to rank people, I'm so glad they let Vanessa go on like that. It was beautiful. I loved it, man.
Does anybody else have any words on the Hall of Fame induction itself?
It was a great ceremony. Everyone that was inducted was well deserving of it. Can't be said about what Vanessa Bryant had said during the ceremony. I mean, like Richie said, it was a very emotional moment for time for her. It still is, and for her to bravely get up on that stage and share her fondest memories of the world that got to experience Kobe. It was beautiful. And Kevin Garnett, I've been watching Kevin Garnett as a kid, and I think that he's one of the most intense, players of all time, and it's just well deserving. But for the entire class, I like where the NBA Hall of Fame is going. I don't think this has been said, but I like that it's becoming more diverse. This is something we haven't seen. More women are getting inducted, and more people are knowing about it. Like, it's not something that's only being said on the internet or something you got to look up. Like, this is actually, they're being inducted along with the men, the way it should have been, and the way I hope it continues to be. And so the NBA is going in the right direction.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about it. And before we get into another, we'll do it as a quick take. I do want to say, so looking at the scope of today's NBA, all right. This is a 2-parter. We'll go back around. Sahi, we'll start with you because you didn't weigh in on that last one. Looking at the scope of the NBA as it is now, one, which players would you say have adopted the Mamba mentality? And B, if you could give a Kobe award to someone this season, who would it be?
I'm trying to think of his just out of reach. I'm trying to think of his name from Miami. Who's it? Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is Mamba mentality for sure. Just what he did last year in the bubble, and his team's right back in it. And you look at their squad, and they don't have a bunch of superstar players, but their superstar is a superstar because he doesn't do anything like a spectacular, amazing, but he does everything like, efficiently and good, and works super hard. I'd have to give it to Jimmy Butler if I'd have to give an award for it.
Absolutely. Marvin, we'll just do that reverse order. So the two-parter is, one, which players, if you have multiple, exude that Mamba mentality, and if you had to give one Kobe award to someone this season, who would it be?
Players I think that exude that, I'd have to say Jason Tatum, Kyrie Irving. I have to say Russell Westbrook for sure. I have to go and actually throw Jimmy Butler on that list. Giannis Antetokounmpo, I would throw him on that list. Mamba mentality, I'd have to throw Bron and AD on that list for what they were able to accomplish last year. But I think the number one player that has really adopted the Mamba mentality, I would give the Kobe Award to, would be Damian Lillard. I think Damian Lillard has completely embodied that Mamba mentality. He's even said he's made tribute songs to Kobe, and then one of the lines in his songs was that he said he stared in the eyes of a killer, and out of respect, he did that at Staples Center. So what he was saying is that, playing Kobe as many times as he did in the Western Conference, him being that young, he respected him on the court and saw what he did, just was in awe and admired what he did. And so Kobe shared that knowledge with Dame. And so you just see that in his play, man. He's cold-blooded. He reminds you, when he hits that clutch jumper and he yells Dame time, or the crowd yells Dame time, Dame is just emotionless. Like, he's calm, but he's alert. You can tell, like, he's got that, that side, that Mamba to him, like that silent killer, like kind of like Steph Curry. But I think that he's embodied that the most out of anybody, Damian Lillard, especially in the fourth quarter, because I don't think there's, Steph Curry is a very intimidating player. You got to go up and, you're the opposing team. But if it's the fourth quarter and Damian Lillard's on the other team, man, I don't know. Like I think with Dame time, it's like the same thing as Kobe time.
Very interesting. I'm a moderator, so I don't get to argue. But the only person I would take off of your list is Kyrie Irving. We can talk about it off the air. But
no rebuttal. I mean, I'm still throwing him on that list.
Cold-blooded, man. I'm just gonna quit. Like, I'm not gonna go through the list. Marvin already had a pretty exhausting, good list, and I agree. I'm gonna say Devin Booker. I think Devin Booker is a phenom. When he was 19 years old, he scored 70 points. Now, obviously, Mamba scored 81. But having said that, when I think of a guy who just when he's hot, you just don't. There's nothing you can do. It's Devin Booker. I think Jason Tatum most closely resembles Kobe, to Marvin's point, and more statistically, from a defensive perspective, he's a phenom. Whereas Devin's not there yet. And Devin's 3-point line shooting reminds me of Kobe because if you look at his numbers, it doesn't look too great, but when he's in the game, it doesn't feel like it looks. Like he's 36% from the 3-point line. And Kobe was also not that great of a 3-point shooter. But I'm telling you, all you ever remember is Kobe, right? Like that's what you remember. You don't remember all the shots he missed, but you remember all the damn one he made. And he'd make them in bursts. And that's what I think of when I think of Devin Booker, is this kid, once he gets going, man, you ain't stopping him. And so to me, I would say I love the Dame pick, but just for the sake of the argument, Dev's another guy that like when he's hot, man, like it's crazy. And he's only 24 years old. So I'm looking forward to see Devin Booker mature as a player.
Well, I think I can speak on behalf of The Wire and probably anybody here at H2G when we say congratulations to the Bryant family. Well-deserved over an amazing career. Kobe still missed and in the hearts of everybody. I don't think anyone would ever argue that Kobe Bryant should be in the NBA Hall of Fame. And I'm not saying that I'm necessarily arguing this next guy, but I'm going to go back to 2011 with some of the comments that have been made by some of the fellows in the room. And I'm looking at another member of the class of, I think, 2021 for the Hall of Fame. And his name is Chris Bosh. So I just wanted to throw around the room here real quick. Does Chris Bosh really deserve the Hall of Fame spot? We're starting at Richie and working our way back around.
Does Chris Bosh deserve the Hall of Fame spot? Let me say this. Yes, I know you want me to say no. I know you want to swerve, but the NBA Hall of Fame is not the NFL. It is not as prestigious. That's just a reality. A lot of players get in. For instance, his career was shortened drastically. Yao Ming got in, right? And I'm not being denigrating to Yao Ming. I'm not. I think when he was playing outside of Shaquille O'Neal, he was the best center in the league. And then when Shaquille O'Neal kind of went downhill for about 4 years, Yao Ming was the best center in the league. But should he be in the Hall of Fame with the likes of Hakeem Olajuwon, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaquille O'Neal? I don't think so, but he's in there. So if Yao Ming's in there, only playing 8 seasons and 2 of them with his foot being completely out and basically only playing 6 full seasons, then sure, Chris Bosh should be in there. Chris Bosh is a journeyman in the sense of he could have been amazing, but it's kind of what we talked about with James Harden earlier, in that he took a sacrifice. You have to remember, he was averaging 25.6 points per game when he left to go to Miami. And yes, those dropped down to 18.5. But you're talking about it dropped to 18.5 as if that's a bad number. Also having to not play the way he wanted to play. I think that's a thing that wasn't fair in Miami. He was a post-up guy. He looked like Big Bird, all right? Dude was like 110 pounds, 7 foot, all right? He was skinny, but he had a good post-up game, and he really used his post-up. But because of Wade and LeBron could not shoot a lick of a three-pointer, they had to throw him out on the line so they could go for the penetration and they could go for the drives. So he had to become a spot-up three-point shooter, and he changed his game to make it work. And as a matter of fact, his three-point shooting drastically went up, believe it or not. So I think that's what I'm most impressed with when I think of Chris Bosh, is that the dude was a hack at the three-point line. He was 24% 3 points before he went to Miami, and he got it up to like 34.5, which again doesn't sound good now when you got the Steph Currys and the Dame Lillards, but this is 2010, not 2020. All right, the 3-point percentages have skyrocketed because people have gotten better at the shot. So the point being is he changed his entire play style. He's almost a 20. He's a 29 basically, right? He's about a 20 points, 9 rebound guy. Is that Hall of Fame worthy in the NBA? Yeah, it is. Is he a top 50 player? Hell no. He's not even a top 200 Hall of Fame player. But his body of work and the years he played. I absolutely feel, he's a part of the Raptor franchise, right? He could talk about Vince Carter, and I'm not disrespecting Vince Sanity, but, he left and there was that sourness. And then they got Chris Bosh, and he was that guy. He was that lone all-star with no talent around him for years. So I think this is more of a body of work Hall of Fame and not necessarily a dominance of Hall of Fame. Just a really solid, extended, I think 12 or 13 year career in the NBA. And going 20-9, that merits it. So
Marvin does, and then there's Bosh have a place I can't believe I said that after all these years, in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he deserves it. All jokes aside, I never was on board with that joke because I felt like Chris Bosh never got the credit that he deserved when he was with Toronto. People forget how trash that they were, and he was basically the LeBron James of that team, nearly averaging a triple-double for the 6 years that he was there. And attest to Richie's point, his three-point stats being that low. I mean, that's because they didn't need him to do that. I mean, they needed him to really get buckets inside because no one else could make it.
Because they couldn't rebound.
I mean, you don't want Chris. They couldn't rebound. So that's why he's nearly averaging a double-double, because nobody else can shoot. So he's literally got to, he's completely out of rhythm once he's going out there and they're down by 20 or 15. But I think that when he went to Miami, he took a huge step back. And that step back was exactly what the team needed. Now, they weren't successful in their first finals run, but when you look at the big clutch moments that Chris Bosh was a part of in Miami, those games, those late moment games that they won because of Chris Bosh, especially in those Spurs series, I think that he doesn't get enough credit. But I think that over a body of his work, when you look at what he did in Toronto, And you look at what he did in Miami, the two championships, along with the All-Star appearances. I think that it's well deserving.
Sahi, you cool with Chris Bosh in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, but I just feel like it's too soon. Because, that he was putting up numbers in Toronto, but they wasn't making any noise. It wasn't like, oh, yeah, we got to watch out for Toronto and Chris Bosh. He doing, you know what I'm saying? He leading the charge. Nobody was talking about Chris Bosh. Nobody, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was the most quiet superstar before he went to Miami. He was part of the big three, and people were like, they got Chris Bosh? Who that? And you look up his stats and you're like, all right, yeah, he all right. Because they didn't really want Chris Bosh at first. They wanted somebody else. I forget who. They said it in a documentary. And like, as you know, people got to know Chris Bosh. They're like, oh, yeah, he is good. Yeah, and they're like, you know what I'm saying? He won a couple championships. Let's thrust him into the Hall of Fame, I guess. I mean, does he deserve it? I guess. Like Richie said, the Hall of Fame in the NBA isn't as prestigious as the NFL. So
they tried to get Carmelo, by the way. They wanted Carmelo. That was the original.
Yeah.
But Melo wanted nothing to do with that. He wanted to go to New York. That's what it was.
Yeah. So Chris Bosh was just the sloppy seconds. Like, he good too. He good. They like, dang, like, all right, come on, Bosh. Come on, bro.
Damn, Sahi. Man, we just said a beautiful thing about Kobe Bryant. Here's Sahi shitting on Chris Bosh for no reason. 13 seasons. Man, it's not easy to average 20 points in the NBA, man.
I mean, when you're 6'11",
there's a lot of 6'11" dudes that didn't score 20 points a game for 14 seasons.
That's why we love
Sahi.
True. But he was the only guy in Toronto. But let's see.
Yo, Tyson Chandler was 7'3" and couldn't average more than 6 points a game. And he had one defensive player in the year. All right, man, come on.
Tyson Chandler was my dog.
How you gonna say he your dog and Chris Bosh sloppy set? Come on, man.
You guys ready for some wild card?
Wild card.
Okay, we're gonna cut the other story. We'll talk about it next week. I was gonna bring up the Celtics and all that. We'll get into that some other time. It's wild card time, and boys, we got to go back to the WWE. I'm sorry, but some history was made by a name that you all know. I know that not everybody watches every week or every pay-per-view anymore. But the legendary luchador Rey Mysterio at the age of 46 and his son Dominique at the age of 24 defeated Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode to capture the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, becoming the first ever father and son tag team champs. What do you guys have to say about the Mysterios?
I mean, Rey Mysterio Jr. is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. I have no clue if Dominic is worth a shit, his son. I mean, I've seen him kind of wrestle. He's like 20 years old and, he's not green, but this is more of like a nod, this is basically Rey using his influence to give his son an opportunity, which he does, don't get me wrong. This isn't nepotism. Rey Mysterio Jr. put his body through hell for 30 years in wrestling. I could care less. He's the greatest luchador in American wrestling, not Mexican, but whatever, man. I think it's cool. This reminds me of Ken Griffey and his son. That's what this reminds me of. I think this is a cool moment.
Marvin, any respect for the Mysterio family?
Didn't Dominic get kidnapped by Eddie Guerrero in the story?
Yeah, Eddie Guerrero. Hey, he was his poppy.
Like over a decade ago.
He was his poppy, remember?
Yeah, right. It was poppy. One of the greatest storylines in WWE.
I love that one.
Was that great storyline, and Dominic being a part of that, I felt like that's when he part of that storyline, because that was like a storyline of pure jealousy. Of pure jealousy and just go ahead, Richie. What's up?
Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off. It just the rumor is at some point they want his son to swerve and go heel and beat up his father and say Eddie Guerrero is his dad. I'm telling you, I would love to see
this. This ain't ready to rumble.
Funny.
This ain't that.
Yo,
movie
I'm
Ready
just
to
saying.
Rumble.
It's the WWE, man. Anything can happen.
Right, man. Anyway, I just think this is trying to make up for lost. This is trying to make up for lost time, man. This really doesn't impress me. This is nice, but you know, we've seen King Griffey Jr. and his dad play baseball together. You know, we've seen The Rock. We've seen The Rock. We see The Rock's family now. The Rock's family is working together now. If you listen to Roman Reigns, he sounds just like The Rock. He sounds just like The Rock. The Usos, they kind of sound similar. I'm like, man, I've never thought I would see this. This is like the mini Rocks in the ring, but I think it's nice. It's a nice touch, but you know, I feel like WWE is it's doing everything it can to keep the ship afloat.
Well, we're gonna go over to Sahi. I do have to say we got to give Dominique a little respect. He's earned enough. I mean, I'm sure we know Rey Mysterio's word goes a long way, but he did have a match with Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. You know, that's a pretty big card for a kid at 24 that doesn't really have a wrestling background or like history.
Was it for the WWE Championship?
I cannot confirm. No, it was not.
It was not. And Seth Rollins is one of the greatest wrestlers in modern history. So he could wrestle a fucking potato sack and it would be an entertaining match. Come on.
But it was a good booking. You know. Anyway, Sahi, what do you think? It was a good start. Mysterios.
I'm very impressed. Rey Mysterio Jr. is still wrestling.
46 years young.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been wrestling quite a while, and it's just I'm glad to hear it. Unfortunately, I wasn't tuned in, so I can't really give too much opinion about beyond that. I was watching the UFC this weekend, seeing Michael Chandler get knocked out for the lightweight belt. I mean, the father-son duo championship, that's awesome. That's amazing. Like,
another thing
never been done before. Right? Never been done before. Like Richie was saying, anything can happen in wrestling, right?
Absolutely.
That's right.
Anything can. All right. Well, this has been The Wire. Thank you guys for dealing with another wrestling topic. I am happy for Rey Mysterio and his son, Dominique. We will hopefully hear from Tony Ray on who the GOAT winner is. Make sure you check out the H2G podcast this Friday night. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern. They're warming up to the finale. It's coming real soon. And check us out at H2GPodcast.com, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, where all podcasts are found, audio podcasts for The Wire this week. Thank you very much. We'll see you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You have a good one. You know, I think you guys gave too much shade to the Mysterios.
Yeah, maybe so, but you know, I just feel like it's a cute angle that they're just trying to, you know, pitch. That's for the kids, man.
You know, if we're gonna do wrestling, we should just have a part of wrestling.
And of course, check out all of our content at H2GPodcast.com. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and where all podcasts are played. Damn it. This is going to be a blooper. Marvin's coming in right now.
I love it, dude.